Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? How's my sound coming through? Hope it's good. You have found your way to the Friday Night Live Toy Armada. Hope you're here for a good reason. I'm Aaron Archer. I am a ex-Hasbro Kenner toy designer, and I spend a lot of time talking about those days and the artwork I do now and how toys are made and whatever we want to talk about, basically, on a Friday night. How's everybody doing? All right. Didn't change the office too much this week, I don't think. Tried to make it a little more cat-proof for those playing at home. So tonight we are going to cover Blurr from Armada Transformers, and then do some How'd I Get This Way. I am going to show one of the toys I bought this week, and that's about it. And then we could talk whatever we want to talk about. So how's everybody doing? Thanks for showing up. I'll just get into it. So like the banner said, we're going to talk about Armada Blurr, who looks way more dynamic in my drawing here than he ever did in toy form, or could in toy form, right? That'll be my next Archer Monster _ creative podcast or Instagram art. How's everybody doing? So we got Blurr here. Blurr came kind of late second wave of Armada Deluxe. I always thought of him as the kind of cooler cousin to Hotshot. We knew that based on Hotshot's Audi TT kind of Porsche kind of form, that the next vehicle that we would want to do would be more of a what we would call sleek car. And I think the working name for this character was sleek car. And that was a way to denote what kind of design we were going after, versus a roadster, a sedan, a hot rod. So when we talked to the Japanese, we tried to make it straightforward. So this was sleek car, and it is somewhat based off a front, somewhat of a Celine of that era. The gimmick here with the wings folding down and this whole thing in the center obviously is very different than any actual production car. The Japanese version of this has orange down here instead of the burn spray that we have. They have the blue up here as well. What I am missing here are the projectile launchers that would have nested in here, and his Minicon, which I am totally blanking on the name of this Minicon. So, yo, Justin, what is up? Old school in the house. David, wow. Incinerator, that is such an Archer name. Take a object that sounds interesting, like part of a piece of machinery, and that's a Transformer name. So yeah, Incinerator, awesome. Now this one breaks the rules, right? You guys have talked to me about this. This guy doesn't have a Minicon port, right? So you're kind of as my dad would say, SOL, if you wanted to use any other Minicon with this, because his uniqueness was that this wedge shape fit into the back of the, of course I can't do it, but I tell everybody about transforming in front of people. To get that feature, it's really only his shape that nests in there, which is kind of a flaw in the game plan. That doesn't really follow the rules and probably shouldn't have been approved by the way it, that's just, we should have done better with a Minicon port there that any Minicon could have used somehow. But he did come with extra Minicon ports, so you could really go a little crazy with this guy and armor him up. And the idea was then we'd have a flying vehicle that maybe could go against thrust, probably not Starscream, but we could have some sort of flying capability. I'm not sure how that executed in the show exactly. It's hard for me to remember, but that was the thought process to make him be able to fly. So Incinerator here is pretty cool. A little different than some Minicons. He's articulated fairly well. His mold breakup was good for just no paint breaking it up. Has the interesting forearm though, right, with the built-on front of the car, which makes him a little difficult to pose. But I do like that he's got his own weapon. Glad we didn't do that a lot. But an interesting execution to try. Really like the stiff fin on the back. It's really nice to hold. This guy stands really well with those wheel feet. So I find him to be a pretty successful Minicon. I wish we wouldn't have maybe put them in the waist, the Minicon port exactly, but that's neither here nor there now. So because Hot Shot was yellow, this guy, we went with the silver. This was achieved with a somewhat translucent material with a lot of pearl added to it. Seems to be holding up. So that's the vehicle. All right. You guys seem jazzed on this one. I didn't know if there'd be much love for Blurr, so I guess there is. I like the use of the name. Blurr was a great name from back in the day. Again, this is an era where I'm not... I'm just trying to regain the assets of the brand and not really caring at all about how it played with G1 or what came before, because that really wasn't something we had to worry about at all. That was not under our purview to keep the heritage going, so to speak. That kind of came later. So I was just trying to use cool names. Oh my goodness. Gotta take these side bits off or down, huh? So I was just trying to use cool names. Blurr is obviously a great, simple get. I love names that sound like what they do or what they are. So a fast car called Blurr is just dumb simple. That's why Hot Shot I like. It says something about the type of car, the type of character, what people think of the character. It serves a multiple purpose in storytelling with just the name of the character. You don't have to get into it. So that transformation has that weird fold out. He does have the back wing kibble, which is unfortunate. All that feature, that's what I talk about in the long form when we talk about Armada. When these are gimmick based, they're all based around the gimmick, and the transformation that you get out of that is what you get. So this guy has interesting shoulder articulation, but terrible leg articulation, right? He can't really go forward and back, which I'm sure there were a bunch of snapped off legs along the way. So I'm going to call attention to a couple things here. So this is the robot. Put him in the light here a little bit. What this goes with my theory of design that he's a fast car, not quite an F1 car or something, but he's going to have a head design that looks like more of a Formula One type helmet at the time. His little side wings are kind of thrusters or pipes to somehow give the impression that he is fast in his overall look, not just his vehicle form, but he's a lives that life. Again, I'm missing the projectile launchers here that were Minicon activated. So, how's everybody doing? Good to see some people here. Claudio, T-Formers 2002. How's everybody doing? Ninjatron. So, that is kind of Blur, an incinerator. The Japanese, they kept theirs a lot more orange. All this was orange to just keep the two color tone. I introduced more colors. And I don't always see this, but when I was looking at the book today, I'm pretty sure that they don't have that transformed correctly. This should be folded down to kind of block the knee or the hip area there. I'm not sure I've ever seen that before to notice that it was mistransformed. There's the projectile launchers. Had a big projectiles. The drop down. So pretty cool guy. He was designed in Japan on a separate, probably 2-week trip I was taking then. That was after the big long summer trip that I did a lot of the first wave guys. This would have been done later in 2001 in the fall. Probably in the fall of 2001. The car was based off of Celine. I have all the reference that I pulled off the internet at the time for all the Minicons and all the cars at the time. So I have the reference. I just can't pull it up here. It's one of the things I'm working on to getting back to a streaming platform that I can pull up pictures and all that stuff, just like Proto does. So I'm still working through that, but it was definitely a Celine inspired. We couldn't obviously use any type of one car without paying royalties, so it was never truly that one car, but that was the starting point. Definitely. Yeah, the Takara, you're right, David. The Takara one did have more of a clear visor. Sometimes in the gray models, it was tough to always know what was going to happen with the clear molds. Was that going to be, were their eyes behind there or not? And I didn't, I was a bit of a one-man band still at this point with a co-op. So there were little things like that I just might have missed and just kind of made the visor opaque and didn't have the eyes in there. Yeah. He definitely, I mean, at least his kibble kind of feels like a cape, or a jetpack. I can make that justification that this is the most like one of those old Batman toys that I would have designed. But no doubt that is a big hunk of plastic hanging off the back. Very cool robot still. But no doubt a big hunk of plastic. This also goes with my dislike for making black tires. For some reason, I don't like making black tires. So you'll see a lot of my toys have dark gray and really dark blue and, rarely all the way to a core black color. So I find that kind of funny. All right. So before I answer too many questions, I'm going to cover a few things. So I'm going to randomly pull out a few of these and just talk about them. So I started a new segment last week, like how'd I get this way? What inspired me as a kid to get into the drawings that I got into and all of that. Get back to me on that one, Justin. So I'm just going to pull out a few of these. I've talked about them before, but we'll for new people, we'll see how that goes. I'm just going to pop 3 or 4 of them. All right. So I am a kid that grew up in the 70s and 80s, so magazines were still a thing. You can imagine we didn't have the internet. You didn't have endless comic book money. Even comic book stores were still kind of cryptic back then. You had to go downtown to this weird dark place and have your parents drop you off. So anyway, magazines were a good gateway into this world that I fortunately got to be a part of. So things like Starlog magazine would cover all the shows and all the sci-fi things that were going on in Hollywood, TV shows, movies, and they would have these behind-the-scenes photos that you otherwise would never see, the kind of detail in an alien ship, right? So again, just like we'll talk about the coloring books next, these types of magazines were a great place to see images that you never otherwise saw. Golly, I'm looking through this and there's all kinds of them. It was half black and white, half color, but really cool, bigger images of the stuff that we were growing up with at the time. So it was a great way for me to learn how to draw these characters and read about how they were made and who was making them and learning the ropes. So I collect this stuff now. So this is something I have around, but that's part of the way I got this way. And we've talked about my love of old coloring books. And even modern coloring books. It is an awesome way to get big, clean, black and white artwork to trace, learn how to color on, add to, learn how to draw the details of these, whatever it is, robots, Disney characters, Star Wars characters. So coloring books were a big deal for me as a kid. And then they still make them. They still come out with these books today, of the movie guidebooks. Another great resource for photos you otherwise will never see. Background images of how they would do the special effects or the makeup, or I used to like the matte paintings. They used to paint on glass, anyway, that's a whole other thing. And so those are some examples of how I got this way. Coloring books, old magazines, and behind the scenes movie books, pre-internet days. All right. T-Formers 2002. No, we took the mystery drawing away for now. Yeah, everything else. I rearranged the office to be more focused on stuff I did over here and my bona fides or whatnot. And rather than my personal collection, which I kind of have now off to my left. So that people watching the podcast can get an appreciation for some of the items I was a part of or lines I worked on. So hope that makes sense. And the top row is stuff I grew up with. But we will get back to the mystery drawing. It'll be worth it. So, if you had any questions, hey, Matt is here. What is up? Ha! How's it going? Man, it is like BotCon 2003 all over again. Yeah, Matt. The old coloring book. Sometimes they would use animation models, and just man, those were the best. Those were the best. When you were and the Armada team were brainstorming, did anyone bring in some of the classic media, old VHS tapes of the cartoon or issues of the comic? I had gone, so when I talk about this Armada development time, this window while RID was happening, it was a research project to get names back, get iconography back, the logos, the sigils, the icons, whatever we call them, right? It was not our job at all, full stop, to build it forward from whatever came before. So no, we did not really look at old media at all. I, in my research project to reacquaint myself with the brand, bought the Marvel Universe Transformers books 1 through 4 to give me a guideline of what happened with those. There was also some independent books that were episodic guides to the old series. So I read those to help me understand how the universe worked, but no responsibility to connect to that universe at all. So don't know if that's good or bad, but not unlike, in a way, how they wiped the old Star Wars continuity when Disney brought it in. It was almost too much. Whatever was going on, it was too much that was built up that we couldn't start from knowing all that and then going forward. We just kind of went forward for kids. So, Claudio, did Kenner have any interest in any comic properties besides DC and the Shadow? Judge Dredd, kid oriented. We talk about Planet of the Apes was a big one that we were always tinkering with. We were really focused on Batman and then DreamWorks for a while, so Small Soldiers came out of that. And then Brian came in, and then Nerf's Transformers, G.I. Joe, and My Little Pony and stuff came back in a bigger way. So, no, really didn't look at too many of those things. I came in a transitional time between a more optimistic kind of toy world where you could try things, one-off things that didn't have TV properties or movies, to now kind of you have to have those things. Like nothing independent gets made. Wasn't Blur also inspired by a Ferrari F50? It may have been in the back. It may have been. Again, we could never, we purposely never copied any one car or vehicle type. We always had to do amalgamations and add-ons, and you shifted the core elements around. So it becomes more of a form factor than a detail study, right? So it wouldn't surprise me. I think the back of it was Ferrari inspired in its general shapes, obviously. Do you notice different Hasbro lines have jumped back into the whole robot animal that becomes weapons and armor gimmick lately? That's been the last. No, I'm not familiar. Can you speak on Cybertron Blur retooled from Armada Online? Who redesigned all the modified parts? The gimmicks to be changed to Cyber Key. I don't recall who did that one. I think that was largely on Takara's side as a request, so I think they handled it. I can't recall. So it would have been likely Eric that handled those. Eric Siebenhaler. So we're watching Toy Armada. It's already almost 10:30. Wow. Sorry I was a little late. I'll go a little late. All right. So I did get one figure this week from my favorite vintage store. An old friend of mine, Clifton, Happy Pappies in Canton, Ohio. He's got a bunch of awesome old vintage stuff and 90s era stuff. So, in my effort to explain how I created Night Force Ninjas, I am in the effort going through and buying all the Night Force Ninja figures loose that I don't have, which is a lot of them. Got his tail here. Got his big crocodile hand. That was really a cool monster thing I got to make. I talk about how I didn't get to do too many monster things, but had a lot of fun with that one. Gave him a super swiping arm. And then we did this skull thing that would bite onto Batman. But yeah, I'm working with a friend of mine, one of my oldest friends, Randy. We're going to put together some sort of, I don't know if I want to call it a documentary, but kind of the making of the Night Force Ninjas. So I am trying to track all these down. If any of you have them in your play box loose with their parts that you want to part with, I'm definitely looking for Azrael. A lot of them really, but so there he is, all his glory. And I like to point out that I was one of the first to put a tail on Killer Croc, well before the Jim Lee era. So that was fun. So I bought my own toy this week. What was cool that someone that sold it back to Happy Pappies had the lenticular that was on the box too, which I was there at the photo shoots for these. This was a big deal back in the day. This little thing that was barely a thing, that we had to show this movement, and you couldn't do a try me. So they came up with this. This was like an unbelievably high percentage of the package cost, which is crazy and unfortunate. So anyway, Night Force Ninjas we'll talk about more at another time, but that is what I got this week. Do you remember if he ever had a Power Links deco in planning? I don't know if Blur ever came out in that red deco. Yeah, so Night Force Ninja is my baby. Are there any other sibling lines of Transformer-esque Japanese robots you like? I've recently gotten into Bandai and Rock Lords. Well, that's a good question. I like goofy stuff. I don't like zany stuff, but I like stuff that should be really cool and tough that really isn't. So GoBots fits under that quite a bit. I like a thing called Kami Robo. Does anyone here know what Kami Robo is? 10 points if you do. So yeah, I like some stranger robot stuff. I like they're really tall, skinny robots. 7 stories, something like that. Kami, I'll show you. I will show you. This dude made articulated paper wrestlers and created a whole world of these wrestling robots. He's got a whole map in here of the storylines and the double crosses and the heel turns and everything. I mean, it is amazeballs. It's a singular artist effort. Bandai did some, they're too buried to pull out. Bandai did some collector ones that I have a few of. Just really the strangest thing I found in Japan and coolest thing. I wish I would have bought more stuff. They never had shirts in my size. I was quite a bit larger back then, but even now, they just didn't make shirts anywhere near anything American size could wear. So, yeah. Yeah, if we painted something red again, it was always Swerve. If we couldn't come up with a better name, well, just name him Swerve. Swerve became the kind of red shirt of every Transformer line, right? Red car, Swerve. You could have a whole collection of Swerves. I wonder if there's a Swerve collector out there. Any of you? We've mentioned BotCon a few times, so I'm proud to say BotCon 2003 is my backyard in New Jersey. Yeah, that'll be cool, you know? It's a long legacy there. Okay, so it did come out. I barely remember Botmasters. There's a lot of bots in this head. Too many some days. Yeah, 5-star stories. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I like strange, organically shaped robots. So we could talk about that in part when we went into the movie studio for Michael Bay's development of what the Transformers could be. I was very into what they were doing because that's kind of how I had sketched various bots. Not quite the way they did it for the movie, but that form factor was something I was open to in my own art. To see it on the Transformers, how they were doing it, I was very open to that new form factor. Yeah. You know, Gear Bricks, I did see that. I did see that Cybertronian mode for Blur when I was drawing this for the next sketchbook and March of the Robots this month on Instagram. I noticed he had a Cybertronian mode that I was surprised to see. I know we did it for a few of the other ones, but I didn't know we did it for Blur. That is a fun fact. And Sideswipe too, because yeah, Sideswipe is the next guy I'm drawing. So I noticed that one too. I first heard about Blur from a character who called himself Orson. Oh, that's right. That was the first image I think I sent out. I don't get the frozen peas thing, but yeah, Orson was me. Certainly was me. But yeah, because what happened? Something was going on where somebody had a picture of bad picture of it, and I couldn't take it. I was like, oh my god, these guys are spinning themselves crazy. Let me show them what it's really going to be. And a legend was born. Infamy was born. I bet that Orson guy hates G2. Were there any DC female characters that were too risque? Not that we really talked about. I do remember that commercial. I think I've seen that on YouTube. We tried to keep it pretty much above board at Kenner Hasbro. We were really oriented towards kids. There's a few examples like Batgirl and Legends of the Dark Knight that got sexed up a little bit, but we tried not to get anywhere near that territory. No, my personal aesthetic might be inspired by 5-star stories at times. I like that look. The Bay look was similar, so I was comfortable with where they were headed. I don't know if they were looking at that stuff too. Armada Blurr. Let me look here. I have an old document. Oh wow, here we go. Yep, let's talk about it. Sleek car type, rocket on wheels, Ferrari type. This is the notes from our working rollout. Triple change, flight mode, handheld weapon, Minicon partner, race dragster, main character role, interceptor, October 02. So that's how we thought of that character. All right. Names, sleek car. First choice was what it was, I guess. So I guess we went with the first choice we had. Choice 2 was Silverbolt. Choice 3 was Groove. I did not have a choice 4. Minicon names, Dragstrip, Crashor, Overdrive. Those were the options. Why we had so many options was on this sheet. I went down the line. If something didn't get approved by legal, we dropped that one out and moved the next one up. So because this went through, we never had to then search Silverbolt to see if that would work. You understand? So that's a little. We'll look at that document every time we do one of these and cover off in real time what we were how we were talking about these things. Because remember, they have working names. We don't know what their name's going to be most of the time, so that's why it's sleek car. And it's not till later that we find out, okay, Blur is available, and that's what we're going to go with, or it's not available. Okay, what's your next choice? Silverbolt. So that's how that went down. Did you want Incinerator to be unique to Blur because he did not activate gimmicks like the other mini cons? Oh yeah, we talked about that. It wasn't intentional. Matter of fact, I would consider it an oversight now. If a junior designer came to me and that was the whole layout, I'd be like, yeah, I think we need to figure out that mini con port different, but makes it unique. Yeah, I desaturated a lot of my colors, Matt. So that is all on me. I talked about that a little bit last week, where we tended to want to go for a more sophisticated palette. So we thought by deadening the colors, anything that was too bright or poppy was seen as preschool, play school kind of zone. So we tried to mood them up. Remember, I'm coming from the 90s. We're still in this mindset. So you can blame me for the drab orange particularly. Available. Yeah. That's cool. About the Batgirl figure. I haven't seen that. I know that artist, so that'd be very cool. Oh, okay. So Silverbolt was his Japanese name. So there you go. That's interesting. Yeah, so I talk about this also. The planning documents we had with Armada, the time we had to develop Armada, that whole extra year, to make decisions, investigate how these things could work, was really, really amazing and helpful, and a rare gift. Honestly, you don't get that often in toys, especially without now with animation and development and everything on top of it. So really a unique time, for sure. Speedbreaker, yeah. I was never a big fan of Speedbreaker as a name. I don't know why. Oh, the cat is back, folks. The cat is back. So if you don't know already, please check out archermonster.com. I got a shop. You can check out the other things, my link to my Instagram if you don't follow that, and Facebook, and all those good things. If you've just stumbled upon me tonight, you can also get my history and learn a little bit about how I got to be talking about this stuff. I sell artwork and all that, so cover that a little bit at the moment. I'm doing all these Armada characters this month for March of the Robots, and that'll be all part of the next sketchbook. So that'll be the sketchbook that's coming out this summer for the cons. So it'll largely be Unicron trilogy, but largely Armada characters. There you go. So check that out, and all that artwork, the original artwork, is also available for purchase. So if you know anybody who wants an Armada piece of art for remember the good old days, hit me up. You guys are really going off on that one. Yeah, we're going to do a Legends of the Dark Knight episode. I just got back in contact with another one of the designers on that, who did some of the early ones as well. So I want to bring a few more voices in on that one, because I kind of did the back half. He did a little bit more of the front half. of those items. So we're definitely gonna do one of those. You know, right now the Batman audience, toy audience, isn't centralized in any meaningful way online. They don't have boards per se, just dedicated to Batman products. So there's some Uber collectors that show their collection, and that's been really cool to get in contact and talk with them and start sharing assets and things. But we don't have as much success on the podcasts with the Batman stuff quite yet. Just not as robust of a fan base, obviously, as Transformers is. And that's for obvious reasons. So, but we will get to it, Laser Ape. We will definitely get to it. No doubt. I'm curious about any streams you could do on Energon toys in the future. It was a very weird line in general. It is a weird line in general. Jetpack Man 01. We will definitely be doing them, and we'll cover off why it is a little bit weird and has some strangeness about it. Some great toys, but that one kind of came and went, even though it was the same length as Armada and Cybertron. You know, we talk more about Cybertron and Armada than we do Energon. So, but we will definitely get to it. Maybe I'll be able to get Eric in on that one too. That would be cool. Yeah, I heard some of the Batman molds are still going in India, kind of third-party bootleg kind of stuff as well. Well, you know, I'm a semi-independent artist now, so I'm having fun doing this. But you know, the ad revenue helps, and super chats and all that stuff, selling of the art. That's, you know, I'm encouraged to do that as well, so that I can stay somewhat independent and just kind of not have to stress as much as I used to. So I enjoy these weekend kickoffs for me. I hope you do too. That's a good question. The Dark Knight. Why didn't you include a minicon with Armada Laserbeak? So in our mind, Armada Laserbeak was a kind of in between. For a minute, we considered that there would be an animal race of Transformers, and that's where the Laserbeak kind of came in. That was the brainstorm in the room. I don't know how deep that ever went, but it wasn't. He wasn't a Transformer that in scale that minicons would interact with. So we just kind of kept it separate. It was just easier that way, to be honest. Yeah, so David, in the waning days of Hasbro having the Batman license, they came out with all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, while you still have the license, you kind of lay waste to the battlefield with all kinds of stuff, and you flood the market. So when they launch their stuff, there's just kind of a glut. You know, everybody just got a bunch of cheap Batman. Why do they need more? You know, kind of a weird tactic, but that's how it goes. So we just did a lot long form on the Toy Armada podcast, or long form, where we talked about the creation of Armada Optimus, Proto Man and I, and we haven't recorded the next one, although we need to fast. So I'll have to get back with everybody on that one. Yeah, we should have done a miniature Laserbeak as a minicon, I guess, maybe to put with your larger robots. That's a great idea. 20 years too late, I guess. I don't think we ever considered it. When Armada came out, on the boards, somebody had made a little kind of skeleton with Minicon ports that you could build a Gestalt combiner with Minicons. If you had the right ones anyway, to kind of make it look interesting. That was really interesting. That was really cool. And I was kind of bummed out. I didn't think of something like that. Yeah, salt in the earth. Yeah, it's a little bit. Sketchborg, where is he? Hope he's doing well. Shout out. Full of 20-year great ideas. Actually, it would be a great third-party item. Right? It could be a 3D printed item for all that. It didn't have to transform. You could just set it around your collection. If anything, on a clear stem to have it flying. So what we try to do on the long forms and here, as you all know, is kind of bring a little more insight into the working process of the toy process: creation, execution, manufacturing, marketing, legal, QA. I have a bit of unique insight as being on the inside for so long to kind of answer weird toy questions that otherwise. So Optimus one particularly. Oh boy. Just got an unstable warning. So what that's about. Third party was going on for the last, I don't know, a long time while I was there. A long time. Probably as far back as 08 or 06, when you think of some of the stuff that started to come out. That Ultra Magnus was one of the first things. Or City Commander, right? Something like that. My stance on third party hasn't totally changed, although it's somewhat bendable. I just worry about the end quality and reliability for the price. I want them to be satisfactory toys, and I don't want them to do any damage in any way, because it is just going to look bad on our hobby and our brand and the Transformer brand, not that third party necessarily. So I just worry about that, knowing how hard it is to make good, safe product and reliable Transformers product. I'm just, it's wild that as many of them get made. So I don't know. They're made with love. It takes a lot of skill to make those things. So I'm not disparaging anyone's talents to do it. I just wish they'd make their own IPs. Really, that's where I really net out, and use that talent, that skill to make transforming things of their own design, their own creative solutions, and so forth. But there's not as much money into that, right? So there we go. That is my third party stance today. Yeah, there's not too many professionals doing podcasts. Most of us that have had any years in, are still kind of actively working. I took myself out of the rat race, and I'm not really trying to totally get back into the rat race. So I don't talk out of turn here. I'm not telling stories out of turn. But the threat is that you just don't want to burn bridges or talk out of turn, so everyone's a little skeptical while employed, obviously, or looking to be employed in a major toy company. They just don't want to talk about stuff, and we're conditioned through our inventions and NDA to not really want to talk about stuff. So Brian at Super 7, he can run his own show and talk about whatever the heck he wants to talk about, assuming the license holders allow that for him. But he can bring insights that other people would be afraid to bring. And my situation is unique, so I can also say it how I want to say it. Again, with respect and not trying to start any problems anywhere. So, yeah. A few companies have branched out to make non-Transformer robots, but they don't seem all that successful. Yeah, I mean, the marketing is in the known factor, of things you recognize in scales and formats that you can't get otherwise. So I recognize it's tough to have organically launched, IPs, robot IPs that have the same attraction. So it's going to be tough to get them off of it. Jetpack Man. Yeah, Unrustables. Yeah, those guys. I met them in the UK. They gave me one of their items. I really thought it was. I gave them props for creating their own kind of IP, rather than echo something from the old Transformers brand. But yeah, I don't know whatever happened with them, but it was pretty cool. I got it in the next room. The problem with trying to track down third-party companies is they're kind of, they're not even companies. It's a series of deals. Know people, and so, and it's not easy to just go into China and threaten legal action. Matter of fact, it's almost impossible. So it's a whole different type of situation. So Hasbro handles it differently. I'm not going to get into how they handle it, but that they take a different tact. So, but we had binders. We recorded everything that we found and just kept adding to it. And some stuff is a 1-for-1 product, so that's a knockoff, right? Some it's a toy, but it's bigger or smaller, and that's a shift. It's a scale shift. Sometimes it's the real product. Sometimes they just kind of played with it. Then there's product that if you don't have a design patent. Oh my gosh, cat! What are you doing? You can't get up there. Sorry. So, some, like, oh, it's a big red truck. Okay, well, Hasbro doesn't own big red trucks. Takara doesn't own big red trucks. So some just ape the brand. Really, dude? Never comes into my office except on Friday nights for some reason. I don't know where he thinks he's going to go. I blocked that all off. So anyway, so some of the third-party companies do like the weapons of the Transformers that are in the scale of the Transformer. Like an or what is. I mean, are those where are those in the hierarchy? Cat took out Grandizer, no doubt. Totally took out Grandizer. Oh no, Grandizer's still standing. Still standing. Almost took out the whole Autobot. Took out the Covenant of Prime. So it's just like, at what point are you offended as a company? Or is it kind of a side hustle benefit? Okay, if someone's making weapons that we'll never make, is that, we don't have design patents on those necessarily. So it gets into a whole strange thing, is what is it really, what can you go after? So I didn't have my thoughts totally down on the legal protections of all that, but that'd be a good one to really get into it someday. Hope that was a good overview, though. The most galling was the Army Colors Armada Megatron that Walmart was selling around the same time as Armada. Oh, a knockoff? Yeah. Oh, is that book going for that much? I'm such a creative nerd that I don't know what anything is valued at. Yeah, I'm not the collector the same way you guys are. If I'm inspired by it, it just sits here forever. All right. But I have some friends that do, guys I know from shows and do great 3D printed weapons, swords, and hammers, and things that Hasbro's not making, and I love to put them with my toys. They're actually in some of the hands back here. I think those are cool. Hey, Aaron, I asked in Protoman stream to what extent Hasbro and Takara owns Transformers. Does Hasbro own the whole property, or does Takara pay licensing to Hasbro? I'll kind of roughly top line that. It's a shared concept. So Hasbro may own the overall Transformers property. Takara has the rights to it in their territories. So they do not pay a licensing fee to Hasbro for the use of Transformers, to my recollection, although they do have to sign on to some of the deals that the animation or movies get connected to. But they can do anything in their territories if they want. So no one quite owns it. And Hasbro can make its own toys, but can't really work with another company and make transforming toys. So we're really committed to Takara. Takara's committed to us. So it's a unbreakable marriage thing. One of the reasons it works, because we have to make it work. It's in everybody's best interest to work together to keep it going. Not every deal works that way. So collection Nirvana. Something worth $5 next to something worth $1,000. Yeah, maybe. When we ever figure out the sketch up there, you guys are gonna. What? Okay, so that's a good example of that one right there. Yeah, the Covenant of Primus. The thing with those books, any of these collector books that I have been a fan of, you buy them when you see them because you may never see them again. And my example of that was a little kid, 10-year-old in 1982, and I saw this book at the local bookstore and really fell in love with like this Mylar sheet that you could take off. Yeah, clear sheet. Thought that was cool, and all the monsters and everything. And I didn't get it, and looked for years. I bought it at Comic-Con like 25 years later. And now I own multiple first editions because I'm a nerd that way. So when you see a book that you really think is rare or interesting and not going to make a lot of, just go ahead and buy it. You'll never regret it. Because trying to find it after the fact is not going to happen easily. There's a couple books like that I looked for years to find. Years. Again, I'm a book nerd, so I'm an artist, so I like having different styles. And in the toy industry, we're always doing different techniques, different styles, and brainstorming. So I was that guy bringing in reference and techniques and that kind of stuff. When we were doing the commemorative series, was there any consideration for Star Saber, Overlord, Desert, God Bomber? Not really. I don't know the original names of what became one of those universe items. I guess that was the original. That was a Starscream, I think, original that we made Die Atlas or God Atlas or whatever. But I don't think so. No. The Japanese items were too finicky for our QA. They had breakable parts, in some cases small parts, small projectiles at times. They had some assembly. And so we really never looked at those Japanese ones because they just were too different. The level of transformation was different than we were going for. So it just really wasn't something we looked at doing. Do you have any of the Allspark Almanacs? I got 1 and 2. I don't have the combined version, which I saw at a show on sale. I should have bought it again. If you see it, buy it. Because I wish I had an extra one that I could kind of use as my flip through copy. Yeah. I was the book guy, and now with the internet, it's like I just send links. It's like I used to bring in all these unique books and whatever. King Atlas, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's as close as we got to any kind of Japanese stuff. There he is. A little stinker. Oh man, what the Laser Ape, the Diaclone reboot they're doing now? Oh my god, I love every bit of it. I wish I could afford it. I have 2 small pieces, and they just sit there taunting me because I don't have more. So I'm thinking about getting rid of them. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Who came up with the Dark Scorponok redeco? Because it was kind of obscure reference in mainline toy to do a Black Zarek homage. Dark Scorponok. Is that the BotCon one that's up here? That's a Mega Zarek, I guess. Dark Scorponok. I don't remember the Scorponok redeco. Oh. I'm not seeing it. Oh, Cybertron version wasn't in Energon. The oh, that one. Yeah. I don't know. I must have done that one. The dead giveaway is if it has that light metallic blue or a gray blue or slate gray blue or blue slate gray. So that elbow and ankle mold there and the head shape or the head color mold is definitely a giveaway that it would be mine. But I don't have a big recollection of that deco sheet, so I could have directed that through somebody else's hand to make it that way and get it done in the shop. So I don't think I actually did that deco, but it looks like something I pointed to a co-op and said, do this deco kind of thing. All right. Yeah, I think there was some remolding. I can't recall what, though. Man, we were doing so many robots, and by the time we got to Cybertron, we were already pitching movie partnerships and opportunities and what the brand is, and the unified continuity stuff in a way was being built. So I get hazy because we were hustling it. We were hustling it in Hollywood. We were hustling it at the shows over the summer. We were hustling it with the Japanese partnership. So I, at this point where we're talking about that Scorponok redeco, it was, there were a lot of plates spinning every day. Yeah, everything was a blur, full circle. No doubt. All right, so we've gone, I think I've done a full hour here. So yeah, great callback. Awesome. I do appreciate that. So awesome to see everybody here tonight. Ninjatron, David, Matt, Justin, Claudio, TF Formers, Cheesier, Robot Assassin. Good conversation. Laser Ape, definitely good conversations tonight. Appreciate y'all being here. Definitely check out the long forms if you haven't. Feel free to give us suggestions on what you want to hear about. We got a big list going on, and please check out my Instagram at archermonster_creative. Check out stuff there, and archermonster.com/shop if you're interested in buying art. So there you go. Got sketchbooks, toys, all kinds of stuff. So we'll see where we get to next week. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Talk to you soon.